Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you all for coming this afternoon to our 2022 legislative preview. United Way is proud to host this important event. My name is Mikelle Moore. As Bill said, I am the chair of the United Way of Salt Lake Board and Chief Community Health Officer for Intermountain Healthcare. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here. As we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the progress we've made in the last year regarding recognition, awareness, and action. Part of our commitment to building on expanding that awareness is recognizing that the land we're on, where we live, and where we work for equity is the traditional territory of the Eastern Shoshone and Goshute peoples. We want to honor those who have stewarded this land and acknowledge a need to address continued inequities experienced by Indigenous peoples. Next, I'd like to recognize the members of the boards of directors for all of the local United Ways represented here today, as well as Bill Crim, CEO of United Way of Salt Lake, Tim Jackson, CEO of United Way of Northern Utah, and Bill Holterstrom, CEO of United Way of Utah County. I'd also like to recognize the members of our legislature. Thank you for your service. Appreciate you and all of the other elected officials who are here at this meeting. Thank you for your service to our great state. We have a great program for you this afternoon. We've organized 3 different panels featuring legislators, topic experts, and community members. We're excited to hear from them and to learn about the 2022 Utah legislative session. For those of you who love to tweet, you can join the conversation today by participating in our Twitter discussion. Simply use the hashtag UtahKidsFirst or tag United Way of Salt Lake at UWSL. None of this would be possible without our generous sponsors. First, I would like to recognize and introduce Bryon Stock, General Manager at the Chevron Refinery in Salt Lake. For the 15th year in a row, Chevron has generously been the presenting sponsor of this event. Bryon is here to say a few words. Bryon?
Hey, thanks, Mikelle. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm really proud that the Chevron Refinery has been such a long-standing sponsor of the legislative preview. I'd actually prefer to be with you in person today, but instead you can see that I'm participating from my home office because today is a mandatory air action day, and we encourage our employees not to commute on days like today so that we can be part of the solution to better air quality in Utah. At Chevron, we operate at the privilege of the community. And we know that we only thrive when the community around us thrives. And we believe that one of the biggest factors to the success of our communities is ensuring that students are prepared to meet the challenges of today and the opportunities of tomorrow. That's why Chevron partners with the United Way of Salt Lake and other organizations to support a lot of programs that help to do things like remove educational barriers for under-resourced classrooms, to promote multicultural learning and development, and to provide STEM and career technical education opportunities across the state. We know that others on the call today are also very engaged and making a positive impact for Utah students, and it's truly just a privilege to be among so many strong education leaders. I think the resilience demonstrated by students over the past 2 years is a real testament to the passion and the commitment of our teachers, of our school administrators, and the community members that provide quality learning opportunities, no matter the topic or the classroom structure. So I wanted to say to any teachers, administrators, and even parents participating on this call, I just personally stand in awe of everything that you've navigated since March of 2020 and continue to navigate during these challenging times. You are the ones that are out there doing the hard work every day to make sure that our kids are on the path for educational success. I do want to thank you, Bill Crim, and your team for your strong partnership over the past 15 years, as you mentioned, and for everything that you do to coordinate this event. I'd also like to thank Governor Cox for his leadership during this uniquely challenging time, and for his administration's dedication to providing every student in the state with equitable opportunities and resources. And last but not least, thank you so much to the panel speakers for providing your insights today on 3 very important topics that we expect will be discussed during this upcoming legislative session. So thank you again, and I really hope you all enjoy this great event today.
Thank you so much, Bryon. I appreciate your comments and your support. I'd also like to recognize our major sponsors, Google Fiber and American First Credit Union, as well as our supporting sponsor, Comcast and Rocky Mountain Power. Thank you for your generosity. Now, it is my great honor to introduce Utah's 18th governor, Governor Spencer J. Cox. Governor Cox took the helm during an unprecedented time in history. Deep in the throes of the COVID pandemic, Governor Cox has led our state through tough times and is poised to continue to do so as we continue to fight COVID. He's helped shepherd increased funding for education, was among the first governors to welcome refugees from Afghanistan, and is committed to improving opportunities for all Utahns. And I'm proud to call him a friend. Welcome, Governor Cox.
Thank you so much, Mikelle, for that very kind introduction. I appreciate you and Intermountain and the critical things that you are doing always, but especially now. I want to thank Bryon and Chevron and all of the sponsors of this great event, and of course Bill and his team, whom we are so lucky to have in our state, and we're so grateful for your leadership around educational issues and so many others. It's hard to believe that we are on the precipice or the doorstep of another legislative session, but it is indeed right around the corner as we are ready to begin next week what is sure to be a fast-paced and crazy, interesting, and significantly important 45 days. We look forward to working closely with you. My job today, my ask is to share with you some of the issues that we will be watching closely and more importantly that we will be advocating for that I believe align very well with your efforts as well. So just a little bit, again, it's no secret, but we are not out of this pandemic yet. Of course, COVID-19 continues to present challenges. I will state just at the outset that I'm very encouraged by the research that we're learning about the Omicron variant and what we're seeing in other places. Of course, with this unprecedented spike in cases, we are also learning more about hospitalizations, that the hospitalizations are significantly shorter. Our hospitals are seeing that here as well. While there are certainly more people being hospitalized, the length of stays are much shorter. Some reports we're seeing are a day and a half versus 5 days with Delta for those hospitalizations, which is important as we're able to get people out more quickly, and significantly reduced rates of people entering the ICU and needing ventilation, which obviously lead to higher rates of death. So some encouraging news out there, and we're hopeful that over the next couple of weeks we'll be able to see those cases start to decline once again. So I encourage, as I always do, everyone to please get vaccinated if you have not done so. If you have been vaccinated, please get your booster shots. Those two are the only things that reduce hospitalization and reduce death, and they do so significantly. And we need that so that we can get through this virus and move into the endemic phase as we move on. I'm very optimistic that we'll be able to do that in the next few weeks. Now, all of that aside, Utah is well positioned to make real progress on issues that we've been dealing with for years, and we'll be working with you and the legislature to find common ground. Let me begin with my top priority, as it has been when I ran for governor and for this session as well as last session, and that is supporting our students and our teachers. I know you have several sessions today devoted to education and improving our schools. As you may know, we've recommended a budget that takes the long view and proposes significant investments in our people and especially in our children. Every dollar that we invest in our kids pays off with tangible benefits. So we are proposing a historic $976 million investment in education. This is new money, I will add. So this is in addition to the billions of dollars that we spend every year, with $556 million of that new money going to K through 12 schools and $420 million going to higher ed. For K through 12, we are recommending a total 5% increase to the value of the weighted pupil unit. We trust that local schools, for those of you that follow this, and you probably do since you're engaged in this Zoom call, that is the way that we mostly the way we fund education in our state, K through 12. We trust that local school boards know how to best educate students, support educators, and manage their schools. We also, and this is key to me, I ran for election with a focus on our Title I schools, our multicultural students, our rural students who are certainly most at risk. In the 2021 general session, we worked together with legislators to create and make an initial investment in a new program, and this is a program for at-risk students. And what we are proposing this year is, well, what we are proposing is that new weighted pupil unit for at-risk students is fully funded within 5 years. So we want to start with about $57 million this year, because we know early childhood learning is so important. We're also recommending about $23 million, an increase in funding for kindergarten. This is all-day kindergarten every year for the next 3 years, which will, if we can do that, $23 million a year over the next 3 years, that will be able to take extended day kindergarten across the entire state. And we want everyone that is interested to be able to participate there. We're also making strategic investments in our people. As our current labor shortage makes clear, we need to expand opportunities for workers to retrain and upskill. So our budget includes $9.4 million for technical education and $5 million for rural community college expansion. We're also recommending $120 million to the Higher Education and Technical Colleges Capital Projects funds. These investments are so important to keep our economy strong and our people well trained for the jobs of the future. I'm also concerned about mental health, and I know this is something again that we've worked on together. We've had significant investments for mental health care in our elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. We need to do more at the university level. A 2019 assessment found that 57.8% of students in Utah's public institutions felt things were hopeless in the last 12 months. And this was before the pandemic. As a result, we're recommending an additional $3 million in funding for mobile crisis units and system-wide peer-to-peer counseling to make sure that our college students can thrive. One last thing I'm concerned about in our schools is inclusion. We've had some recent incidents, as you well know, well publicized, of racist attitudes and behaviors in our schools, both in K through 12 and in higher education. I've met with the superintendents across the state multiple times to talk about what can be done and how we can be supportive there. I'm meeting with a group of students later this week to discuss this very issue. We have to extinguish these hateful, harmful attitudes and behaviors, and we have to teach that there is strength in diversity and inclusion. We can do this by going about it directly and getting to know people who are different than us, and making sure that we are proximate to each other and creating a place where lasting bonds can be formed and safer and more inclusive places in our schools, and we will continue that effort with you. Just a couple more issues that I want to mention, and then we'll get us back on track. One is water. As you know, this has been one of my top priorities. I've spoken about it often. We've proposed $420 million investment in water infrastructure planning and management. That is a top priority and will include significant pieces of legislation around conservation for our state. We have to use less water, and it's incumbent on all of us to do that. That includes, efforts to help reduce water usage amongst the public, and significant investments to help our farmers to optimize agriculture, irrigation, as well as additional storage efforts in the state. Most importantly, a new focus on the Great Salt Lake to make sure that we are doing more to preserve that incredibly important ecosystem in our state. One more thing, and one place where I could use your help. We will have a tax cut this session, and because of federal funds in our robust economy, our budget has grown by a couple $2 billion. Now, about 40% of that is mandated by law to pay for certain things like education, social services, and reserve fund deposits, all of which are very important. But we have an opportunity now to give some of that tax relief back to the citizens of the state of Utah. There are lots of different ideas about what should happen there, but we are recommending a $160 million tax cut in the form of a grocery tax credit. that comes through that comes directly to the people of this state. Now, some have proposed eliminating the state sales tax on food altogether or cutting income tax rates. But what we are proposing now is a grocery tax credit that will actually provide a much more substantial benefit to households in the state who need it the most, and that's lower and middle income families. Under my proposal, lower income families will actually receive more than they would by eliminating the grocery tax altogether. We also know that the legislature is not interested in eliminating the grocery tax. They're much more interested in an income tax rate cut, which will benefit those who need the benefit the least, the most wealthy. And so we're asking for your help. Cutting the food tax would result, just as a couple examples, in about $185 of benefit for a two-parent household with 6 kids and an annual income of $100,000, while our proposed grocery tax credit would provide a $400 benefit for a single parent with 2 children making only $20,000 a year. Cutting the tax rate on food would give that family an extra $85, while our grocery tax credit would provide $240 in benefits. So you can see how much better that is for our lower income families. We believe it's the best tax policy to offset rising inflation as well. So with that, I'll end. There's a million other things we could talk about, but I know our time is short. Again, I just want to thank the United Way of Salt Lake, the United Way of Northern Utah, and the United Way of Utah County for your tremendous work in helping all of us. We love what you're doing, and we can't wait to see another very important session as we work together to get the big things done for the citizens of Utah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Governor Cox. We truly appreciate you being with us here today. We truly appreciate your leadership of our state. I'd say in particular, we appreciate your approach to leadership, which is one that brings us together in a time when there's a lot of polarization and conflict. Your leadership is one that exemplifies the humanness about all of us, and that is itself inclusive and models that. So thank you for that. As we move into our breakout discussions, I just want to say briefly that it probably doesn't need to be said again. The last 2 years have been incredibly challenging, but sometimes it's just worth taking a moment to recognize that those challenges have been felt differently by different parts of our community. Those who have limited incomes, those who are people of color, kids in school, and kids who are in part of those populations that I've mentioned. In some ways, they and us, as a result of this, are facing unprecedented challenges in terms of our future. It's a crisis moment for kids in school, I think. And the ability of us to reckon with that, to tackle the challenge of the future, seems like what we're about here today. We have a challenge in front of us, which is to define what's the future we want. How inclusive do we want it to be? How willing are we to speak up for that future? And those questions are what bring us here today. They're what cause us to invite you into this conversation. And hopefully by doing that, we don't just have a conversation today that's illuminating and helpful in that sense, but hopefully what we do is we create an ongoing conversation, an ongoing engagement together to create a more inclusive future. So if you haven't already, we hope you will join us. We hope you will join our advocacy network. We hope you'll sign up for our Policy Matters newsletter. You can do that on our website at uw.org/advocate. You can also be an advocate on social media using the hashtag #UtahKidsFirst to connect with others who are advocating for children. As we go into our breakout sessions, I want to give you all some hopefully clear technology instructions. So the task right now is to attend a breakout session that you've signed up for. already. By leaving this part of the webinar, down in the bottom right of your screen, there's a leave button. When you click on that leave button, you will be back at the main webinar page, and you can choose the session, the breakout session that you want to attend. We'll record all of these sessions so that they can be watched afterwards. And we're excited to have these deeper discussions. This is a new approach for our legislative preview event, and we hope that it brings about lots of good dialogue. Thank you all again for being here. Thanks again to our sponsors, to the other United Ways that join us in putting this event on, and to all of you for being here. Thanks so much.